Hello, everyone. So, our topic of discussion for today is the nature and causes of forgetting. So, the question is that we do experience forgetting and we do also come across its consequences. But the main point here is that why do we forget? Is it because the information that we sort of had committed to our long term memory has somewhere got lost? Or is it because we did not really memorize something that well? Or maybe the information wasn't encoded correctly? Or is it because the information that we learned actually got distorted or it actually got misplaced? So there can be many, many theories behind this for one to kind of analyze and understand why does one forget. So it was actually Hermann Ebbinghaus who sort of had come up with this concept of nature of forgetting, and he made it very understandable for people, and he had come up with this Ebbinghaus curve of forgetting. And what he did was he experimented with his own ability to remember using a list of nonsense syllables, and which he sort of attempted to recall after different lengths of time. So, whatever he did, this experiment that he performed, his experiences that he sort of came across, the results, it actually revealed a couple of things, a couple of key aspects pertaining to memory. So one is that memory actually weakens over time. If we learn something very new, something very fresh, but then we don't really make any attempt to relearn that information or to give it enough rehearsals, then obviously we remember less and less of it as and how the hours, days, and weeks go by, you know. So, definitely, memories they weaken over time because probably enough rehearsals or no attempt was made to relearn that information. Another point is that there is a drop in retention, and that happens soon after learning. That drop, that steep drop happens soon after learning, and the rate of forgetting is maximum, so to say, in the first 9 hours, particularly during the first hour. Now how this happens is, for instance, let us just take an example that you may leave a webinar or maybe a meeting with probably a head full of new facts and figures, and only to find that you can remember very little of it just hours later. So when you try and just recollect whatever you sort of could gather from the webinar or a particular meeting that you sort of attended, also because we are having many of them online, even if you try to recollect, probably you will not be able to recall everything. So yes, the rate of forgetting, in the first 9 hours, particularly the first hour, so to say, it's actually maximum. So definitely there is the biggest drop in retention, and it does happen, soon after learning. Another thing is that it's quite easy to remember things that do have a meaning, you know so things that have little or probably no meaning, for instance, the nonsense syllables, that sort of Ebenos tried to learn. It actually makes forgetting quite predictable, you know and for instance, if you're listening to a talk on a subject that you don't really understand or you don't really have interest in, you're likely to forget it faster than if it were on a subject that you sort of found very, very engaging, very, very exciting, very, very interesting. So, definitely, it's quite easy to remember things that do have a meaning. And we know that nonsense syllables, they are absolutely having no meaning. So it's always like the way something is presented to us is going to also affect our learning greatly, you know, and we always find it easy to remember something that's sort of been organized logically and is being presented very clearly. and we do forget things that can be very, like haphazard, something that's too scribbled, not organized, not logical. So, yes, how things do, or probably how things are presented to us, it also sort of affects our learning, which is also in relation to, so to say, something that has meaning, rather than something that doesn't really carry meaning. So, yeah. So this was all about the Ebenos curve of forgetting, that how, the rate of forgetting slows down, and it's sort of not forgotten, even after many, many days. But the rate of forgetting, so to say, is the maximum in the first 9 hours, particularly in the first 1 hour, the first hour, so to say. So, yeah, so this was all about, the Ebenos curve of forgetting. Um, so now moving on, we have some of the main theories, which also sort of explain, that how and probably why does forgetting take place. So, yes, moving on to our uh, the next theories, we have a very important theory which talks about the theory of forgetting, due to trace decay. So forgetting that happens due to trace decay. So trace decay is, it's more so the disuse theory. So this trace decay also is called the disuse theory, and it's probably the earliest theory of forgetting. And the assumption here is that memory leads to modification in the central nervous system, which sort of is akin to physical changes in the brain, called memory traces. That actually is that, whenever the memory traces, they are not sort of used for a very long time, they actually begin to fade away. And because they begin to fade away, they are absolutely unavailable. So, this theory actually proved to be absolutely inadequate, because if it was because of the memory traces, decaying due to disuse, then of course, when we go to sleep, after memorizing something, then we should absolutely forget that, because while sleeping, probably we're not even using it, but so basically, those assumptions, or those particular kind of theories made up that, because of the disuse, or because of not using that information, the memory sort of starts fading away, sort of starts decaying. So this was actually a very inadequate, and probably it was later proved inadequate, this particular theory. So, in fact, results have actually shown exactly the opposite, that those who actually remain awake after memorizing something, they show greater forgetting than those who sleep. So then, of course, this particular theory failed to explain the forgetting. And so then came up the next one. So we are moving on to the next one, which talks about, you know the interference theory. And the interference theory, if we come to see, it says that how information, sometimes which is already present, can interfere with the recall of new information. And sometimes, while recalling the old information, the new information can interfere. So this is quite an interesting interference theory. So, this particular theory, it actually very clearly suggests that forgetting happens due to interference between, various information that the memory store contains. So, when you're learning and when you're trying to memorize something, it does involve forming of associations between items. Definitely, there are connections, there are links being formed between items, in the memory storage. And there is a lot of information that perhaps sort of is already present from the beginning, and there is some information that we sort of learn, some new information, and there are associations being made, there are links being made, there are connections being made, so forming of associations between the items, that definitely happens. So what happens is that this interference, it comes into play at the time of retrieval when we are trying to recall something, a particular piece of information. When I'm trying to recall, that's when interference comes into play, you know and that's when the various sets of associations, or probably so many pieces of information, probably they begin to compete with each other, for retrieval. So for instance, let's just take an example of you know you trying to memorize two lists of, let's say, nonsense syllables. So there is list A and list B, and you're supposed to memorize it one after the other, and if someone asks you, after some time, to, let's say, recall the nonsense syllables of list A. So because you've learned both the lists one after another, so first you really tried to learn the list of nonsense syllables, pertaining to list A, then you learned the nonsense syllables pertaining to list B, and then after some time you were asked to recall the nonsense syllables of list A. So while trying to, if for instance, while trying to recall the items of list A, one actually recalls some of the items of list B. That's happened because of the association that sort of was formed while learning list B, and it's interfering with the earlier associations which were formed while you were learning list A. So there are associations formed, you know and whenever we try and learn something, whenever we try and come across something new, there are associations being formed, and sometimes the information tends to get mixed up, it tends to get jumbled, and while trying to recall, we can recall one for another, you know that's when interference comes into play. you know so yes, association is nothing but a sort of a link. You're trying to connect. You know, so definitely we do come across these associations whenever we learn a new piece of information, and interference comes into play whenever the retrieval is taking place. So there are two kinds of interferences, and they can actually end up or probably result in forgetting. So interference can actually be, of course, proactive, and it can also be retroactive. Proactive is the forward moving, forward moving. So here, for instance, whatever you learned earlier, in case of the proactive interference, whatever you learned earlier is going to actually interfere, with the retrieval or recall of your, new learning, subsequent learning. So, you have sort of learned something new, and you are trying to recall that new learning, new piece of information, but something that you learned before is interfering with the retrieval of the new information. That is proactive interference. And when we talk about the retroactive, which is backward moving, here there is a difficulty in recalling, something that you learned earlier. because of learning a new material. So here the retrieval, uh, of something that I probably learned earlier is actually not happening, and that retrieval is not happening because of the new piece of information. So new piece of information here is causing the hindrance, it's causing the interference in case of the retroactive interference. But in the proactive, the earlier information is acting as an obstacle, or it probably is causing the interference. So we can very clearly see it depicted through the slide given to us, how the retroactive interference works and how the proactive interference works. You know, so it's quite clear from the slide that's given right in front. Now, moving on to the last one, which is, of course, you know, we do have the next one, which is forgetting that takes place due to retrieval failure. You know, so yes, forgetting can result from failure to retrieve information from the long term memory. So these retrieval cues are nothing but they are actually hints, which we do require at times for the smooth recall or retrieval. We do require those hints, and yes, but what's important to understand is that sometimes these retrieval cues could be absent, or maybe they're not appropriate enough, and these retrieval cues are like hints, they are like aids, and they help us in recovering the information that is stored in the memory, you know and many a times when like we could be playing a lot of games, and suppose you've tried and memorized a list of meaningful words, and to make the retrieval much easier, we sort of just give you category names, you know and these category names can help you to just categorize what comes under which particular category, and therefore helps you to come up with words faster. So these category names or aids or hints, these are what are retrieval cues, and they are required for the retrieval, but at times they could be absent, at times they could be inappropriate. So that's where the issue comes, so yeah, for instance, like you've memorized a list of meaningful words that has a mix of different things like, gold, bronze, and cottage, hut, house. And so that means there are six categories, or probably they could be, like places of living, names of insects, types of metal, and whenever probably if after a while you're asked to recall those, you may recall a couple of them, but you know uh, in the second attempt, if somebody gives you a category name, then it'll be easier for you, simplified for you to recall all the names quickly. So if somebody just says, okay, name all the metals, name all the names of the insects, so it'll come to your mind very quickly, and you'll be able to therefore answer faster. So these category names, or the bigger terms, or the headers here, they are nothing but retrieval cues, hints, aids, So this was all about the nature and the causes of forgetting, where we've talked about three major causes, and we've also discussed the Ebenos curve of forgetting. Thank you so much.